Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Code Garage. If you're someone who wants to be up to date with cloud/SRE technology trends, you're at the right place. Subscribe to my channel for interesting videos on SRE, cloud, and coding in general. In this video today, I'll walk you through what it takes to clear the GCP Associate Cloud Engineer certification. I'll go through the prep. I'll show you what really needs to be done as you prep for the certification, and then followed by some tips that basically are my learnings as I went through clearing the certification. By the end of the video, you will know exactly what is needed to clear the GCP certification. So here is how the prep looks like. We'll look at the exam information that's readily available on Google website for the Associate Cloud Engineer certification page. We'll go over that information in a bit here. We'll look at the exam guide that really gives you the syllabus, the scope of the exam, and I'll walk you through really what is needed as you go through this exam guide. I'll talk about some of the prep material that I use, and not to say that this is the only available course out there. Feel free to choose what you need, but this is what I used. There are practice tests that you should be taking to get comfortable, so we'll talk about some of that, and then we'll talk about some of the hands-on experience that you should be having to really get to or clear the exam. And then, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I'll go over some of the tips that I feel are going to be helpful as you prep for the exam. So, starting on the first bullet there, exam information walkthrough. This is the page that you want to go to, the Associate Cloud Engineer Certification homepage. This is telling you that these are the 5 different areas like setting up cloud solution environment, plan and configure a cloud solution, deploy and implement a cloud solution, ensure successful operations of a cloud solution, and then configure access and security. You should be comfortable doing each one of these, and we'll look at each one of these in detail as we go through the exam guide. The certification exam itself is 2 hours. Registration fee is $125, and you can see all the information in here. I'm not going to repeat all of this here. I wanted to point out to this page. This page has important information for you. What I'll say about this length, 2 hours and 50 questions, is I did not see or face a challenge with those 2 hours being tight for the 50 questions. It was comfortable. So as long as you're prepping up well, I think those 2 hours are just fine. So go over this page. This tells you Google's perspective of what you should do, and then apply what I am telling you here as how you go about preparing. And I think that should be good enough. Let's look at the exam guide here in details a little bit, and the links are right here in this. So I'll open now the exam guide. This exam guide is important because this is really an important part of you getting prepared. So, like we saw those 5 areas that the homepage listed, this details out each one of these, like setting up a cloud solution environment. What does that encompass? What does that include? So it includes, say, setting up cloud projects and accounts, and that includes really activities like this. It means managing billing configurations, and this includes activities like these, and so on and so forth. So my view there is you should be able to do hands-on each of these bullet points that you are seeing mentioning across all these 5 top areas of the certification. That's what is needed. You want to ensure that you are really able to do hands-on yourselves in the console, and Google provides this capability of $300 credit of free accounts that you can create to really practice all of this. So I would strongly recommend go ahead and create your IDs and take benefit of that free $300 credit that Google provides for you to play around in the cloud console. So that's on the exam guide. I'll move on to the prep material. Now, prep material, mentioned that Udemy course there, and that course really is this. I did this one, and this was just fine. And the course from Udemy by Matthias Anderson. But there are plenty of courses out there. YouTube is one of the best resources out there that you should be able to use. You'll find tons of videos if you search for certification. Or Pluralsight is another such source. So use whatever you feel is appropriate. I don't think I'm recommending necessarily one course or the other. Up to you what you're comfortable with. At times you're familiar with the presentation style of one versus the other. So feel free to choose what suits the best for you. The next one here is practice this. Now, important to point out that Google has these 23 questions, just 23, and I don't know why just 23. Google could have easily come up with more, but then nonetheless, there are these 23 available here, and this is important for you to go over. Like you see these 23 here. I think it is very important for you to go over these 23 questions and get yourselves comfortable, because this gives you an idea about how the actual questions on the exam will look like. So practicing these 23 is really important. And then a couple of practice tests from wherever you can get. I got it from Udemy, and I'm sure there are other resources out there that you will be able to find. But important is to do at least 2 practice tests. And then hands-on. That's a very important component here. So if you are on the job already and working in Google environment, in GCP, then I think you're covered. But if not, then I would recommend you go with the Google recommended hands-on practice via Quick Labs, and I'll show you quickly what that looks like. So if you come down to, say, exam overview, and in this, if I scroll down, the hands-on practice, you'll see these quests and labs. So if I just open one of them, that really gives you an idea of what that looks like. So these, for example, this talking about the first one is just a tour of Quick Labs, but this one, for example, will walk you through how do you go about creating a virtual machine in GCP. This talks about another compute engine example. This talks about how do you go about using Cloud Shell and G-Cloud. So these are really some good quick starters out there if you don't have a hands-on experience in your day-to-day job. So that's important. And then, as I promised, some tips here. So let me go on to that, and we'll cover these tips in a couple of minutes. So here are my tips. Number 1, the exam guide. Like we covered that in details in the last couple of minutes. Make sure you can do every task that these exam guide mentions in there, and I'm referring to these. So if you go to exam guide, each one of these activities that you see here, each one of these bullet points, you should be able to do. That's important. Next is understanding Google recommended best practices. Now I'll open this. This page is important, and I have included all those links already here. So if you go scroll down on this page, this is a lengthy page that has a lot of information in there. So what you should do is go about looking at these best practices and read through it. Besides prepping up those courses and all, this will give you a very good handle on all the Google recommended best practices. Like in the area of identity and access management, how do you go about managing your Google identities and controlling access and so on and so forth. So those are best practices. Then this talks about if you scroll down in networking and security, these are the best practices. And go down, you'll find compute related, storage related, logging related best practices that you should make yourselves very comfortable with. So that's the Google recommended best practices. Next is machine types. There are different machine types like standard versus high CPU versus high mem. And this page really lists down each one of these, really what that configuration looks like, and so on and so forth. You should be familiar with this, as there are some questions that test your knowledge and your comfort level with these machine types. So I would recommend that you should get familiar with those machine types here. The next is your comfort with gcloud, gsutil, and kubectl commands. You should really practice and make yourselves comfortable with these three command areas, especially gcloud. More so, we should be familiar with the command structure. It really follows this, gcloud container clusters list, for example. It follows that kind of structure for all GCP resources, like gcloud compute list, and so on and so forth. So you make yourselves familiar, play around with this, run the commands, make sure you are able to write, execute gcloud commands. Important. The other ones are important as well: gsutil and kubectl. Kubectl is what you use to interact with your Kubernetes clusters. That's important. gsutil is the command library that you use to interact with your storage. But yeah, gcloud is more important than the other two areas. Then IAM roles, permissions, custom roles. You should be familiar with all of that. For example, if you come down here in your console, if you go down to say IAM, and I'm trying to find IAM, for example, here, you should be able, you should make yourselves familiar with what these roles mean, and what does it mean to have multiple permissions assigned to a role. Then you can create some of the custom roles, which could be a combination of one or more Google provided roles, and so on and so forth. So you should be familiar with that structure on how roles, permissions, and custom roles work within GCP. Then know the available GCP products and services. Now, if you know anything about GCP so far, it offers a range of services. And if I go to that link, you will see a lot of compute products, storage products, the database products, and so on and so forth. And there is a lot out here. So look at this: BigQuery, Cloud CDN, Cloud Functions, Cloud Run, and whatnot. A plethora of products. You should have a very good bird's eye view of what are those various services within compute, what are various storage options, what are various database options, and so on and so forth. So you should have that good view of available GCP products and services. Not that you should know in depth about each one of these, at least for ACE certification. But you should at least know what exists out there versus not. That will be a good thing to know. The next is play with the pricing calculator. Now this is important. There are at least 3 or 4 questions of the 50 that will show up on the exam that are going to test your knowledge and comfort with the pricing calculator. So Google has this pricing calculator available for the organizations out there to really estimate what the costs are going to look like. Say, for example, if you're going to run your workloads in compute engine, and you will need, say, 5 instances. You fill out this information, and end of the day, as you click this, it'll show you what that approximate cost is going to look like. And as you see on this top navigator here, compute engine, app engine, Kubernetes, Cloud Run, for each of these resources, you will see a different interface UI that comes up here that asks you for the appropriate input, and then give you the cost. There will be, like I said, the 3 or 4 questions that will test your knowledge around this. Now, of course, you can't really remember and keep and memorize what are the input fields for each one of these. But I would recommend just practice compute engine, Kubernetes engine. These two are important. Maybe cloud storage as well. I think those are a few important ones to really get comfortable with. Um, then you have your storage use cases. So storage, as you might be aware, where there are various categories like standard, nearline, code line, archive. What is suitable when in what use case. I think that clarity is important to be aware about. There will be scenario based questions that will test your knowledge on, that will ask you whether what should you be using in that particular scenario that is described. What is best, standard or nearline or code line, or this and that. So it's important to get to understand these concepts that will help you or give you the ability to answer those questions on the exam. The last one here is DB use cases. Now, of all the services available with GCP, there are some relational databases, for example, Spanner, SQL, and there are some NoSQL databases like Firestore and Memory Store, and so on and so forth. Bigtable, BigQuery are some of the data analytics kind of databases. So important would be to understand when will you use what, and this page captures some of that information really well. So go over this, understand which database will you use for what kind of scenario. So that was it. I hope you like the content. Follow the prep and follow the tips. Hope that helps you with clearing the GCP ACE certification. All the best, and if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos. Please like the video, please pass it around, pass the word on, and leave your comments. I'm going to be doing a professional cloud architect video soon as well, and within the cloud SRE areas, if you have any specific topics in mind that you would think I should be doing videos on, please feel free to leave in the comments. All the best. Good luck.